Welcome to Financial Behavior Thought Leaders. I'm Mary, and this podcast takes you behind the scenes with top speakers in financial services. So whether you're a financial advisor booking a client event, an event planner looking for a perfect keynote, or a financial professional wanting to learn from industry thought leaders, you're in the right place. Today, we're featuring Ashley Quamme, one of Financial Behavior Keynote Group's exclusive speakers and a licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in financial therapy. Ashley brings a deeply human perspective to the world of financial planning. We'll dive into her journey, explore a little bit more about how she's helping advisors integrate financial psychology into their practices, and hear a powerful story straight from her talk. Welcome, Ashley.
Thanks, Mary. It's good to be here.
So before we get into your keynote, I want to hear and tell us more about how you got started in your speaking career. What led you to the stage?
Oh my goodness. A series of following, I guess, the breadcrumb trails is probably the best way. Not where I saw myself, but so glad and so thankful to be here. My journey really started actually in the mental health clinical space. So as a licensed marriage and family therapist, I've been practicing for about 12 years prior to actually speaking formally, I guess. Although I guess as a therapist, you're always speaking. True. Right? Your audience is just maybe just two, crowd. But, from therapist, I really then got more interested in financial therapy and in working with financial advisors. And part of that working with financial advisors, initially I started as doing workshops and trainings on, how to communicate better, how to understand what's below the waters with your clients, what are those money beliefs and attitudes. And I really found that I enjoyed that teaching kind of mentoring component there. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a one-to-many that, I didn't really get as a therapist. You feel like you can kind of make more of an impact there. And so, I don't exactly remember the moment there, but I remember, being asked to come and do kind of a speaking engagement. And I was very nervous and was like, oh my gosh, maybe, okay, sure. And just kind of jumped in. I know then you and I met not long really kind of after that. And yeah, the speaking thing was something that has really been just, I guess, amazing, jumping in and doing more of it. And being able to, as I said earlier, just impact financial advisors from more of a one-to-many instead of just a one-on-one kind of coaching or consulting aspect.
Well, and let's back up a little bit because your spouse is a financial planner, right? So you are a therapist really by training. Is that where your interest in financial planning came from, or tell us more?
Maybe. Yeah. Probably. So I jokingly, although it is true, like it's factually true. My dad is a CPA. And my birthday is April 15th. And then I married a financial planner. And so it's almost like I was destined to kind of be in like this space. I just took a different path or didn't maybe realize it in some ways. So, that interest in terms of working with advisors, hadn't really thought about it. Clayton and I naturally in our marriage, in work life, we had a lot of overlap in talking about clients, expertise, just areas, problems, things like that. And so I don't know if it was actually interested in financial planning, but really seeing how much overlap there is to the work that I do and the work that he does. And, finding financial therapy and then starting to consult more with advisors there, it just really felt like a direction that I could see myself in. And maybe in some ways just was, as I said, kind of meant to be all along. I just took an alternative route to get here.
I love it. Well, the stars all aligned.
They did.
They say,
yes.
Right? So what I'm interested in talking about today is you've carved out a really interesting niche, right? You've really blended that idea of financial planning and therapy. You've worked specifically in client communication as a specialty, as well as really in the work of couples. So I want you to break down what this actually looks like in practice, because we all get it in theory, but I think how do you do this? So talk to us a little bit more of what that looks like to work with clients.
Yeah. So in practice, integrating financial psychology really means helping advisors recognize that numbers are really kind of the above the waters or the surface layer of financial planning. And, if we take and kind of look below the waters, beneath all of those spreadsheets and numbers and charts, right? And all of that, there are values, there are beliefs, there's attitudes, there are emotional patterns that drive decision making in general, but also specifically to financial decisions. And that's on an individual level, but also on a couple's, family level as well. And so when I work with financial advisors and their firms as a financial behavior officer or just on a project consulting base, I come in and help them look at their processes. So, for example, their discovery process. And can we go beyond maybe just the standard like risk, questionnaire here and really start to uncover who this person is? And I come from the standpoint that good financial planning is really, one of the components of that is understanding who the actual person is. And so integrating financial psychology, it's about understanding all of those values, beliefs, and emotional patterns that I mentioned earlier. But at its core, it's really about understanding who is this person, like what makes them tick, what motivates them, what are their values, what gets them excited, what are their fears. And, through, the work at least that I do, we help to uncover or build out processes or questionnaires or meeting structures, or client experiences or touch points that really help advisors or the firm to kind of answer that question of who is this person and how does knowing about them, how does that help me to be able to give, good financial planning recommendations or create a plan that's aligned with who they are.
So actually, I'm curious because we've worked with, as a profession, right? As financial planning, we've always worked with people. But it seems like recently there's been this kind of surge forward of financial psychology and really understanding, like you said, understanding people, understanding who people are. Why now? Why is that so important now? And how are you seeing that field kind of move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us at this point in time are aware of AI and we've probably read everything out there. And so, not to make this kind of another, right, kind of AI thing here, but let's be honest, clients can go and get investment advice. They can go and learn about, general core aspects of financial planning. They really can go get that advice anywhere, right? Including AI. Will it be the best? Probably not. I don't know. But in general, like they can go and get that advice from many different other technology platforms. But here's the thing, what they can't get from technology is the human element, right? Somebody who really understands them on an individual level, who understands their complex relationship with money individually, with their partner, within their family system, and then be able to guide them through, you know, transitions like retirement, inheritance, selling a business, divorce, grief, right? Death and loss. Technology cannot give clients that, but you can, right? As a human, right? Hopefully you're not a robot yet. But like you can deliver that human element to your clients. And so understanding, going back to why is this important, understanding and being able to integrate financial psychology really allows you then to be that person for your clients and differentiate yourself and, really kind of stay in this game for the long haul.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head, actually, because that's what I want to go to next is your keynote, and it's called Integrating Financial Psychology into Practice. So I'd really like to hear what is the core message of this speech and who's it best suited for?
I guess maybe to say what I mentioned, just a moment ago differently, the core message really of this keynote is that financial psychology isn't just a nice to have thing. It's not just cool, hip, and and trendy or just fun to learn about. It is becoming absolutely essential for financial advisors who want to remain relevant in an industry that is really becoming more and more automated every single day. And who, at least, from an audience standpoint, who this keynote is going to resonate with are financial advisors or financial professionals who agree with that, who are maybe more or considered, at least right now, the forward thinking, right? I hope that at some point they're not forward thinking. That's just like,
The norm.
norm, right? Yeah. But in terms of, for right now with where we are, this is going to resonate with financial professionals who are more forward thinking and who recognize that the future value proposition really depends upon deepening those client relationships beyond just the numbers, beyond just managing assets or providing, general like financial planning recommendations.
So, question for you. If I'm more of a traditional planner, and I've had clients, and we all know planners too, that are really kind of hesitant of the word financial therapy especially, right? Like, that's a word I don't want to touch. And even psychology, some of these words we use can really shy people away from that experience. So if I'm listening to that keynote as a traditional or even as a client who's like, I don't need therapy, what are they going to get out of this? What are they going to take away?
Yeah, I mean, my hope, one, is that it's not delivered in such a way that is, it feels off-putting or scary from, given that it's being delivered by a therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my hope here. But for those, more traditional, maybe financial professionals, my hope is that you walk away with at least one insight, one practical tool, strategy, or question that gives you some level of confidence for being able to go into your next client meeting to understand that person better, or to maybe de-escalate a tense moment between couples, or to help if a client is stuck or having difficulty following through on a planning recommendation. That insurance policy that you told them that they really need to start and go and take out, and it's been like a year and a half and they still won't do it, and you're so frustrated. My hope is that, if you have clients that are really stuck, that this keynote really helps you to maybe understand what's behind that stuck point, and maybe a strategy or two for being able to help guide that client from a place of, stuckness to, movement and progress.
So what I hear you saying is this isn't you training financial planners to be therapists.
No.
This is you with your therapy background, giving them tools and insights. And maybe it's one thing that can totally change the way you interact with clients. But in order to do that, we still need the therapists. We still need the financial planners. You're not on a training mission for that. You're there to help give them the tools you've learned.
I do not want you to be a therapist unless you want to, and then you should go back to school to do that. I do not want, nor would I ask or expect financial professionals to be a therapist. But I do think that there are certain strategies or questions or just approaches and mindset that come from the psychology world, the mental health world, the counseling world, that could be helpful for advisors to maybe just know a little bit about. Not everything, maybe just a little bit.
I love it. Okay, so break us into the speech just a little bit and share with us a story that's been a big takeaway for audience members.
Yeah, one of the stories that I share is about an advisor who reached out to me by email, and they shared that a client had come in, and please know that names and things like that are always changed for confidentiality. But the advisor reached out, and a client had come in. He was in retirement, and his wife had passed away a while ago. The advisor knew that, but it had been about, a year or two. And this client, and I'm kind of, making things a little bit more condensed here just for you and I, but the client had shared that, his vision for retirement included his wife, essentially. And now that his wife has passed, what's the point? And the advisor, felt obviously, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but just maybe overwhelmed. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, this client is clearly sharing some emotional struggles here. And it sounds a little bit like there's some hopelessness, and I don't know how to handle that, but I know that something needs to happen. I know that they need something. And he reached out to me, the advisor, Ashley, can you help? And so, that story I like to share, because while maybe that particular moment or client story, maybe that's not entirely true for every advisor, but undoubtedly there are those moments for financial professionals working with clients where they have that feeling of, I know this client needs something. I don't know what it is, but I got to figure this out because I care about them, and I want to help them. And sometimes the help or knowing what to do can come from knowing how to ask maybe different questions, or developing just some internal confidence for navigating deeper emotional vulnerabilities that clients share. And so, this advisor, he and I jumped on a call and walked him through some things. And, I don't want to say like, whoo, like all was great, like solve problems of the world solved here. But the advisor did feel more confident in being able to go back to that client and, have that conversation. And that's a moment for me that, knowing likely what that client was experiencing, possibly some depression, maybe some, suicidal ideation, I don't know, but that's a moment for me that has always stuck with me, is that moment with that advisor and that email exchange.
Well, and I think part of this, what you're doing is helping advisors become comfortable with emotions. I specifically remember an advisor that I was working with have a client meeting, and she came out of it and said, the client is crying. I don't know what to do. Do I need to turn them over to a psychologist? And I was like, nope, you just need to sit there and hand them some tissue, right? And so I think that's where I'm hearing those are the implementable takeaways from this, is learning to sit in those very uncomfortable moments. And they're probably going to be very uncomfortable for you, especially if you like spreadsheets, right? For some reason, spreadsheets and feelings don't go together super well. And so I feel like those are the big takeaways, is helping you become more comfortable and know what to say or not to say in those moments, and just how to be there, how to show up as a human.
So I will do some self-promotion. So I have a podcast, Planning and Beyond. And what you just said, Mary, is one of the things that I say at the end of every episode is, finances don't have feelings, but your clients do, which is essentially what you're kind of talking about here, right? Like, the numbers, they don't have feelings, but your clients do. And given that you work with both numbers and clients, right, it is important to know how to navigate the emotional side of that.
Well, and you do have some other tools on your website as well to be able to kind of help navigate that. Will you share a bit with us?
Yeah, so I have a blog that's on there that you can check out. There is, as I mentioned, the podcast Planning and Beyond, and then there's also a quiz that you can take for being able to decide or know, is having a financial behavior officer, is it right for you, right for your firm? So those are some resources there that you can check out that are all listed there on the website.
Awesome. We'll make sure to include those in the show notes. Now, Ashley, for this final part, I want to really dig into getting to know you a little bit more. And so tell us something that maybe others don't know that's unique to Ashley.
This is always like a scary question and like loaded, right? Like a loaded question. So I'll share just maybe a few kind of personal things. These might be really like boring. I don't know like how exciting they are, but I've already shared about Clayton, my husband. He's a financial professional. We have two kids. They are 11 and 12, very active travel sports family. So we're crazy. We are those crazy people that travel for sports on the weekend and love it. I always wanted to be a soccer mom. And literally I wanted to have a minivan. I wanted my kids to play soccer. I wanted to cut up orange slices, and I wanted to scream like on the sidelines for them. And that is what I do.
So you're living your biggest dreams.
I am living. Yep. I do have the minivan. My son plays soccer. My daughter plays volleyball. I don't cut up orange slices because it's, I guess, not cool anymore to cut orange slices and then put them in your mouth and then smile, like the big smile.
Right.
I guess that's not cool. So now we have the little like Mandarin cuties that you peel. So, I peel Mandarin cuties now instead of cutting orange slices. But love my kids, love my family. We're, love being really involved.
And I hear you know how to yell from the sideline.
I absolutely know how to yell from the sidelines. So we enjoy being out at the lake as well when it's warmer. So we live down here in Georgia. It stays warm pretty much the year. So enjoy getting out there. I don't water ski, but we have a ZUP board and it's kind of like knee boarding a little bit. And I enjoy getting out there and seeing how old I feel every year. So it's kind of how old do I feel? That tells me.
That starts to tell you like that age is approaching, right?
For sure. For sure.
Well, Ashley, thanks so much for joining us. And if you're looking for someone who can offer a holistic approach to your business growth, who's someone who blends emotional with psychological sides of money with practical skills, Ashley Quamme is a powerful addition to your next event. You can learn and book more at keynote.financial. And don't forget, Ashley has that free quiz and a guide to help you start integrating financial psychology into your own practice. And we'll drop that link in your notes. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Financial Behavior Thought Leaders. And we'll be back soon with conversations that bring you closer to the leading voices in financial services. Thanks, everyone.